Hi everybody, this is Roxy, Firewife Lawyer Mom. Today's gonna be a fun and interesting video because today I'm gonna share with you what I don't do in my homeschool. So stay tuned. Thank you very much everybody for clicking on this video. Today's gonna be a little bit different. Today I'm gonna show you guys what I don't do in my homeschool. Now why the need for this video? Well, a lot of times, you know, we go on Instagram, we go on Facebook, we go on all of these social medias, and we have moms that we follow that homeschool. And sometimes we can feel a little bit like, I don't do that in my homeschool. I don't do that in my homeschool. And so it can make us really feel that our homeschool is lacking or that we are not doing enough. And so I wanted to make this video to show you guys that even though you see the amazing things that I do and all of the videos that I share here, there are stuff that I don't do in my homeschool. And I think that that is really important for us to realize that when other people are doing things that maybe you don't do in your homeschool, well, maybe they're not doing things that you are doing in your homeschool. And so it's really important to have that perspective because us moms, sometimes we put on ourselves the guilt of, you know, certain things that we may not be doing in our homeschool that other people are. And it really kind of brings us down. It doesn't really give us a lot of positive vibes. And I think it's really important for us to share the reality of what we really do in our homeschool and how there's really no possible way that you can do everything that homeschoolers do within the days of homeschool that you have. And so it's important for us to know that we do what fits our family and what makes our family learn, grow, and experience the wonderfulness of what homeschooling is. And so I'm gonna share with you guys today the 10 things that I don't do in my homeschool in hopes that you could realize that even though I may do a lot of stuff, it's also because I don't do other things. And I'm really perfectly fine with what I don't do in my homeschool because after 3 years of homeschooling, I've realized that, you know, we as a homeschool family, we have our own style and we beat to our own drum. And that's the beauty of what this personalized education is all about. It's about molding it and creating something that fits your family and that helps your family go through this journey together. And so I'm gonna share with you the 10 things, and I'm really excited to do so because I think it's gonna really help you understand how my homeschool works and what are the kinds of things that are important to us. So the first thing that I don't do in my homeschool is we don't do grading. Yep, we don't do grading. And I did recently do a video on why I don't grade in my homeschool, but just to give you guys a little bit of a summary, and of course I will link in the description box below why it is that we don't do grading. But just to sum it up, I don't feel that in the elementary, lower elementary school years that it's important to grade. Why? Because really grading is more of something that I think is done in a classroom setting where there are more than one student, because I as their teacher know what their strengths and weaknesses are. I as their teacher know what they don't know and what they do know and what gaps that they have that they need to work on. And so I don't really grade in my homeschool as far as giving them letter grades. I do give them tests for math and for history and certain things that I really want them to know and to master, but I don't really do the official grading that they do in homeschools. Also, I live in a state where they don't require us to grade. So that's just something that I don't take the time to do. Now, am I evaluating their work? Yes, I'm evaluating their work on a daily basis. We require in our homeschool 100% accuracy. So I do go over at the end of the week all of the work that they did, and we do review that the following week, and we go through things that we got wrong. We review concepts that maybe we don't understand or maybe we still need to work on, need to concentrate on. And so I do evaluate them. I do also evaluate them in the sense of looking at our year at the end of the year and say, okay, what are some of the things that we kind of need to carry on to next year to really hone in on? I do all of that. But as far as having like letter grades every day, it really isn't something that we do in our homeschool. The second thing is we don't do in our homeschool standardized testing. Yep, I don't standardize test my kids. Again, this kind of links up with the grading thing because I really don't feel that I need to compare them to how other kids are doing around the state of where I live, okay? I don't feel that I need to do that because I believe that children really grow and learn at their own pace. And one of the things that I always got frustrated when my kids were in the school system was that it was this constant like measuring stick that they had to meet every single year. And if they didn't meet that exact measuring stick, it was like your child's behind, your child needs, you know, such and such extra resource, you know, and it really didn't allow for kids to be ready to do things. For example, my first grader really didn't have great fine motor skills early on. And so when she was in pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, she didn't have a good command of her writing. And so a lot of the teachers were like, well, she needs occupational therapy and she needs to do this and to do that. And sometimes I would sit with her and try to teach her and like, you know, she really wasn't ready to hold a pencil and write because she was 3 or she was 4 years old. Her muscles weren't really developed in that area yet. And I was sitting there getting frustrated, and it wasn't until later that I started to do some research and realized that really your child shouldn't even be holding a pencil or could be holding a pencil properly until they're 5 years old. And so that really opened my eyes like, wow, you know, here the school system is trying to get these children to do things at an earlier age than when they are really ready. And so we don't really do the standardized testing thing. Now, what do I do to figure out where they are on the grand scheme of things? I do want to know this information. So what I do is every year, before we start the new year, before I plan my new year in advance, in the summertime, I will look at I live in the state of Florida. I will look at the Florida state standards and see what it is that children need to have to know by this grade level. And so that's for me my guide mark. And I go through each of that meticulously. I check off where I see, okay, my child has mastered this criteria. My child has mastered that. Because again, I am their teacher. I know what it is that they know. I know what it is that they don't know. So that really is a way for me to kind of look at what the standards are in the state, and I don't stress out about it. If there's a concept that maybe they should have mastered the year before, but they still haven't, I'm okay with that. If they need extra help, if they need something, I will provide it, but I'm not gonna go crazy, you know, figuring out, okay, well, I need to put all this pressure on my child because, you know, she hasn't mastered, you know, place value, for example, in math, you know. Maybe it's something we could work on, but again, things with children, and this is what I've learned in the 3 years of educating them myself, click for them at different times. Some children lack maturity. Sometimes it's just a matter of mastering a concept and something else that they master maybe links together with that. And then they're like, oh, wait, I understand what you're talking about. And so everybody really develops at their own pace. And really what's great about helping yourself to ease the anxiety of this standard type of thing is to talk to homeschool moms that are more seasoned. Those that are homeschooling high schoolers really helped to calm me down and say, look, believe me, they all will know what they need to know and you will be on top of it. And a lot of times we need to trust ourselves as homeschool parents that we know our child the best and that we know when our child is going to need that extra help or when it's something where we just need to allow time for them to develop into mastering that skill. So we don't do standardized testing. The third thing is that we don't do in our homeschool is we don't homeschool in pajamas. Let me tell you, if you're a homeschool family that homeschools in your pajama, have at it. That's awesome. But we really stress in our homeschool getting up, getting dressed, because I feel that when you are dressed and ready to take on the school day, dressed up, you're more focused. But even me, who's worked from home for quite a period of time, I myself even need to get dressed just so that I can have myself into that mindset of work mode, of school mode. And so yes, my children wake up every day. They have their morning 5. They need to get up, make their beds, get dressed, brush their teeth, brush their hair. they are ready to tackle the day that way. Plus, it makes it a lot easier when we transition from our homeschool time to our extracurricular activities, right? Their hair is already done, they're ready to get out the door, they're ready to go play, and they're not still in pajamas. So that's another thing we don't do in our homeschool. The fourth thing we don't do is we don't do boxed curriculum. Oh no, I don't do the big box that comes with every single subject and it's all the same company wrapped up in a bow. You open the box and you start homeschooling. I don't do that. Why don't I do that? Well, because I've really learned in the 3 years of homeschooling that every child and every curriculum is geared to different children at different levels. It's just a mosh posh for me. Like, I just don't feel that I have been able to find a curriculum that fits the exact mold of my kids. Some curriculum works, some doesn't. So we are very much an eclectic homeschool. We don't go by like a Charlotte Mason approach, or we kind of just take all the approaches and just like mold them to our family. One of the things I learned early on in homeschooling was the curriculum needs to fit you and your family, not the other way around. And so we don't do that box curriculum because I like to pull from all different types of curriculum so that I am making sure that my teaching them is as effective and efficient as possible. So we don't do the boxed curriculum. The next thing that we don't do is we don't do year-round homeschooling. Now, what's year-round homeschooling? Year-round homeschooling is basically where you homeschool the entire year round, but you take breaks in between. So some people do like 6 weeks of homeschool, then 1 week off, and they kind of go through that the entire year. Some people do that because they want to take, for example, all of December off so that they could celebrate the holidays. A lot of people do year-round schooling. That's something that I, in theory, would love to do, but unfortunately, my kids love summer camps, and they love to have that time to just have that big break in the summer, enjoy the beautiful weather. Of course, we live in Florida, so it's awesome in the summer. And so we really like to take the summer off. Now, our summers is not complete zero school. We do a little bit of work, maybe about an hour of work every day during the summer. So I do keep them doing their math. I keep them doing their reading. We always do a reading challenge for the summer where they're reading books and they're getting prizes and things like that. So again, we don't just completely break. And then I also do in the summer, if there's a concept or something that I really wanted them to master, but we just didn't have time to get to it and focus on it, we will definitely do that in the summer. Also, we will do some unit studies in the summer. Like I remember one year we did during the summer a unit study on bugs, because bugs are really out in the summer with the heat and all that. So we did a unit study on bugs and it was super fun. So again, we do a little bit of school, but it's very, very light. But for the most part, we don't do year-round homeschooling. Also, summer is the time for mama to take a big break, okay, of lesson planning and figuring things out and grading and all that kind of stuff. So I really like to take the summers while the kids are in camps to get my next homeschool year planned, which I plan in advance, and I will leave a link in the description box below for how I plan my year in advance. But that's the time where I take to evaluate our former year, the year that we just finished. I also then I already have my curriculum picked out and already shipped by summertime. So that's when I start to go through it. I start to do my dividing of weeks and how we're going to parse out the curriculum throughout the year. So that's my homeschool planning in advance time. And that's why the summers to me are very sacred, and I like to take that time off to really kind of get myself into the right mindset, get enough rest and relaxation to gear up for the next homeschool year. The next thing that we don't do is we don't do complicated heavy prep curriculum. I don't like that kind of stuff. I am very much an open and go curriculum person. I love open and go curriculum. I like something where the lessons are already planned, they're already broken down, how, we have to do this lesson on this day, this lesson on that day. I love open and go curriculum. The more open and go curriculum I can get my hands on, the better. Now, does all the open and go curriculum that I see out there fit my family? No. And sometimes I will have to try to do stuff where get curriculum where it requires some prep. But for the most part, I don't like to have that curriculum where it's like you have to gather all of these materials or you have to do this extensive planning. Like for me, if it's something where I have to just take hours and hours to prepare, I'm like, see ya, I'm not using your curriculum. I'm sorry. And there's beautiful curriculums out there that I've passed on because they just require too much. And again, I'm a firewife lawyer mom, right? I am a working mom. I'm a lawyer as well. So I don't have the time to do it. And so the best that I do is this open and go curriculum because I know that it's going to meet my family's needs and it's going to do the best to lessen my stress as well. And the next thing that we don't do in our homeschooling is we don't do nature schooling. We don't do nature hiking. Do we go on hikes sometimes? Maybe, but it's very rare. First of all, I live in Florida. It's really hot here. And I am not a big fan of heat and bugs and sweating. So we don't do a lot of nature schooling. I know that there are beautiful nature school curriculums out there. There's, I do like the no sweat nature study. That I do like. That's a great, and I will link that in the description box if that's something that you want to, because it doesn't, if you want to look at, if that's something that you want to look at, but I don't like anything where you have to be outdoors and outside. So that's one thing that we definitely don't do. Now, again, we do some outdoor activities. Don't get me wrong. I don't keep my kids inside. And if it's a cool day during the winter, we'll go outside. But for the most part, I'm not a nature person, nature schooling. I don't do that. The next thing is that I don't do cooking and baking classes in my homeschool. Yeah, we don't teach how to cook. We don't teach how to bake. Do I do that on our extra time, like on the weekends, if like we want to make muffins for, you know, somebody, or we want to make cupcakes for Halloween or something like that? Yes, I will definitely get the kids involved. If we want to, on Fridays, we do pizza nights. I'll get the kids involved in making pizza. But like as part of our homeschooling, we don't do, in our homeschool day, we don't do like cooking or baking stuff. Why? Because number one, it stresses me out. It makes messes in the kitchen. And I don't do it. I can't do the cooking and the baking. So I see beautiful Instagram homeschool moms doing amazing things. And I look at it and I'm like, you do you, boo. Good job. Amazing. I love it. But I know my limits. And that's one thing with homeschooling is you've got to really learn to know your limits and learn to know what are things that are going to stress you and what are things that are going to bless you. So definitely cooking and baking is not something that we do in our homeschool. The next thing that I don't do, we don't do a lot of field trips in our homeschool. So I see a lot of moms out there that do awesome stuff. They make time to do a lot of field trips throughout the school year. They take their kids like to different activities and nature places, and they take them on trips, and they go here and they go there, and they go to, you know, like see the behind the scenes of a supermarket, or they'll go. That's awesome. And I love it. And if you do that in your homeschool, you're like 10 steps ahead of me. We don't do a lot of field trips in our homeschool. Why? Because most of the time, I like to keep our homeschool local. We have a lot of extracurricular activities that we do outside of our homeschool day after our homeschool is done. We have a lot of extracurricular. My daughter and both of my daughters do a lot of extracurricular. And when we do a field trip, it really sidetracks the whole day. I really can't even do any school. And so I do take field trips every once in a while. So what we try to do is we split our year into 4 quarters. So I try to do at least 4 field trips throughout the school year. In fact, a week ago, we went to a nature center, like an ecological center, and that was super fun. And we took the day off for that. But again, I'm all about the advanced planning. So I always make sure to take that time from our the amount of days that I want to homeschool in the year, and I block off those field trips. But I'm not somebody who does field trips like once or twice a week. It stresses me out. It makes me feel like we're behind in our curriculum. And, you know, I have a 5th grader and she's already going to be in middle school next year. And so I want to make sure that we're not falling behind in our curriculum. And I want to make sure that we take that time in the summer off. So I don't want to have to take away from our summer. Also, throughout the summer, we do a lot of fun field trips. So that's when we kind of load up on our field trips. We go to different places, we explore, you know, we do all those kinds of things during our vacation time. So don't do field trips. The last thing, number 10, that I don't do in my homeschool is we don't do a certain method of homeschooling. So what do I mean by that? There's unschooling, there's Charlotte Mason, there is classical, there is, you know, Waldorf, I think it's called. There's a lot of different homeschool styles, and I have met a lot of homeschooling moms that they're just married to this one style. You know, they focus on it, they get all their curriculum geared to this specific style of homeschooling, and if that's what you do, that's awesome, but it just doesn't work for us. We kind of have, when I first started homeschooling and I was looking into it, I learned about the different styles of homeschooling and I went through each of them and I felt like, I like this about this style, I like that about that style, and I'm thinking, well, I just can't pick one. So I'm gonna have to just pick from all of them, the ones that fit me and the ones that fit our family. So we don't do a specific homeschool style. We are more eclectic homeschoolers. Now we do, if we're gonna lean to one style over the other, it's kind of a tie between classical homeschooling and Charlotte Mason homeschooling. So we kind of do like a marrying of that. If I could pick it and whittle it down to the last final top two, that's what we do. We do a hybrid of Charlotte Mason and classical because I just like things from both styles. I like the memorization, I like the dictation parts of classical, but then I love the Charlotte Mason approach, right? That approach where you are exploring the world and you're learning through literature and through really amazing experiences and resources. I love that as well. So we get curriculum, again, that fits our homeschool style and fits our family. So I hope this was helpful, the top 10 things I don't do in my homeschool. I hope it was helpful for you guys to see that even though it looks on camera that I have like everything together and that my homeschool like that checks off every box, so that you guys can understand that there's certain things that we don't do, which is why we have time for the things that we do. So what is it that you don't do in your homeschool? I'm super curious to find out. Let me know because I'd love to see so that I don't feel like I'm the only one that doesn't do it all. Leave it on the description box below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't and you want to join our homeschool community. I think we're building something great over here and I just can't wait, and I appreciate all of you who have subscribed so far, and I can't wait for the next video. So see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.